We did the Sureshwar. A solid person around coming to class.
That's nice. Her husband are coming back.
Yeah. I believe we are on. Let me see here. We finished that very famous verse. These minds are Krishna. Are you leaving? You're leaving tomorrow? Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Are you driving?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Idaho.
Where you're going, that's good.
Oh, yes, you're right. There's the tentacles of, but hopefully this is for the end.
Okay, we're on 32. Yeah. Shri Bhishma Uvacha iti matir upakalapita vitsrina Bhagavati Satvata Punga Vevi Bhumi Swasukamupa Gate Kwachid Vihartum Prakriti Mupyeshu Yadbhava Pravaha. Ishmadev said, "Let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which are so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Sri Krishna, who is always self-satisfied, but sometimes being the leader of the devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending to the material world, although from him only the material world is created." So I think the point I want to bring out here is that Bhishmadev's perfecting the end of his life, and is in the beginning phase of life. Generally, people are brahmachari, and then they'll take the grihastha ashram, wherein they're engaged in worldly activities, when they're thinking about worldly things, thinking about jobs and so forth. And that's not that it's separate from Krishna. It is Krishna consciousness, but it's not a type of seva that we want to be doing at the end of our life. Rather, at the end of our life, we want to be like Bhishmadev and be fully absorbed in hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. Therefore, we should set up our life in such a way that we are going to end it like Bhishma. We want to set up our ending right. And I was thinking about Sureshwar's class this morning. It's kind of a little bit strange, but nonetheless, it was, I felt inspired because I see that Sureshwar is perfectly setting up his life, that he does have a daughter. I don't know if any of you met his daughter. You met his daughter before, Chandra. Interesting soul. And, he had his life as a brahmachari. He was a brahmachari for a long time. From he joined in 72, and I think until the 80s he was a brahmachari. And then he was grihastha. And, he lived his life, worked his job, raised his child. Then, he went through some challenges, and he became a vanaprastha. He moved, around here and there, came to Tucson, and, had his challenges still. But still, nonetheless, he's setting up his life so that he's fully absorbed in seva. In this way, he's a very Krishna conscious person, and there's no doubt he'll go back to Godhead. There's really no doubt. So it's inspiring, actually. And I was hearing another Bhagavatam class today. I heard 2 Bhagavatam classes in a row, one by Sureshwar and one by my dearly beloved Guru Maharaj Narahari Prabhu from Hawaii, not our Narahari Prabhu. And he's like my main number one Shiksha Guru. And he said, he was saying how, he was really being honest in his class. And he was saying how he was, he was a brahmachari, then he became a sannyasi for years. He was a sannyasi. And then when ISKCON had its kind of like meltdown in 1986, they kicked him out of ISKCON, and he was kind of like, he was totally, lost as to what to do with his life, because he's a medical school student who became a devotee. And so what do? He proceeded to, start working in the world. And he expressed that he had some challenges, he had some fall downs, principles were broken, got back up, got back up, got solid. Is that what you tell me? He got solid. He got solid in his life, and then he's been a solid devotee for since the 80s. He's been a solid devotee. Became a guru again. Krishna threw him a real big curveball in his life. Still, he's always happy, and there's no doubt. I mean, I'm convinced he's a pure devotee of the Lord. And so we're going to have challenges in our life, in our Krishna conscious life. We're going to have ups. We're going to have downs. We're going to have various challenges, but nonetheless, at the end, we should be like Bhishma, fixing our lives, fixing our hearts on Krishna. And so, let my mind, which was absorbed in so many things, now be absorbed in Krishna. That's what it is, and that's what we hear also in Krishnadas Govindas Kaviraj's song. My only desire now is Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. And I can't say that's my only desire. I'm trying to do only that, but I have so many desires. So, if Krishna has some plans, then I'll follow Krishna's plans. But we're setting up the ending goal, nonetheless.
My first trip to Hawaii, he gave me Sunday.
Oh yeah, he's right.
17. They had that amazing, still have that amazing Krishna house at the time. That, like,
oh God, that house is so cool.
It was like all hand, carved.
The Hobbit house, yeah, it's amazing.
It's crazy.
Narahari has so much piety. I mean, he has to be. To have that the level of renunciation he has is kind of crazy, because he's so fixed on Krishna, and he lives literally in the heavenly planets. His house is from here to the parking lot from the beach in Hawaii. He took me to the Jurassic Park film spot on a boat. It's quite amazing. He's an amazing devotee.
Yeah, and he was part of that big sailing ship.
It was all him. He wasn't part of it. That was him. That was him who started that, the Jaladuta, and Narahari Swami. Yeah. Really is an amazing devotee. And he's so happy. He is so happy. Chris has met him before on a Zoom call. Yeah. He was helping out Taralakshi also recently. He's been giving her a little bit of mercy. So, yeah, the point is we want to end our lives like Bhishma, chanting Hare Krishna. I also like when Nitai said in class, because I was thinking about, sometimes we can see some devotee may go into, from Brahmacharya ashram, Grihastha ashram. They're switching around. They're doing kind of weird things. And we can think, oh, this devotee, he's fallen. He's not fixed. We can think like that. But actually, it's actually for Krishna. When you really, the devotee is always thinking, how can I get back to Krishna? But he's thinking, I can't really avoid this material desire. So I have to rather than try to work around it, I have to basically fight it. I have to work through it. And so that's Krishna. I mean, he's thinking of Krishna. The goal is Krishna. When it's not Krishna is when it's just I'm absorbed in my senses and there's no intelligence behind it. I'm just attracted to this person's body and I don't even know their middle name, and let me just, get engaged here to this situation. And then now I'm basically attached and I'm not thinking of Krishna in the end. I didn't really plan the situation out. And so you made that very beautiful point. And we have the kind of the master herself coming on next Wednesday. So we'll hear all about it. Devaki Mataji is a really amazing devotee. She wrote a book. Yep. 33. Tribhuvana Kamanam Tamalavarnam Ravi Karagoravara Abharam Dhanane Vapur Akalakula Vritanabjam Vijaya Sake Ratra Astumed Vadya. Sri Krishna is the intimate friend of Arjuna. He has appeared on this earth in his transcendental body, which resembles the bluish color of a tamala tree. His body attracts everyone in the 3 planetary systems. May his glittering yellow dress and his lotus face covered with paintings of sandalwood pulp be the object of my attraction. May I not desire fruitive results. Quite amazing. When Sri Krishna, by his own internal pleasure, appears on earth, he does so by the agency of his internal potency. The attractive features of his transcendental body are desired in all three worlds, namely upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. Nowhere in the universe are there such beautiful bodily features as those of Lord Krishna. Therefore, his transcendental body has nothing to do with anything materially created. Arjuna is described here as the conqueror, and Krishna is described as his intimate friend. Bhishma Dev, on his bed of arrows after the battle of Kurukshetra, is remembering the particular dress of Lord Krishna, which he put on as the driver of Arjuna's chariot. While fighting was going on between Arjuna and Bhishma, Bhishma's attraction was drawn by the glittering dress of Krishna, and indirectly he admired his so-called enemy Arjuna for possessing the Lord as his friend. Arjuna was always a conqueror because the Lord was his friend. Bhishma Dev takes the opportunity to address the Lord as Vijaya Sake, friend of Arjuna, because the Lord was pleased when he is addressed conjointly with his devotees, who are related with him in different transcendental humors. While Krishna was the charioteer of Arjuna, sun rays glitter on the dress of the Lord, and the beautiful hue created by the reflection of sun rays was never forgotten by Bhishma Dev. As a great fighter, he was relishing the relation of Krishna in the chivalrous humor. Transcendental relation with the Lord in any one of the different rasas, humors, is relishable by the respective devotees in the highest ecstasy. Less intelligent mundaners who want to make a show of being transcendentally related with the Lord artificially jump at once to the relation of conjugal love, imitating the damsels of Brajdam. Such a cheap relation with the Lord exhibits only a base mentality of the maintainer, because one who has relished the conjugal humor with the Lord cannot be attached to worldly conjugal ras, which is condemned even by mundane ethics. The eternal relation of a particular soul with the Lord is evolved. A genuine relation, a living being with the Supreme Lord, can take any form out of the five principal rasas, and it does not make any difference in the transcendental degree to the genuine devotee. Bhishma Dev is a concrete example of this, and it should be carefully observed how the great general transcendentally related with the Lord. Point here is sometimes we hear that the conjugal ras is the highest. It's not. It's the highest in terms of ras. It's not the highest in terms of the devotee. It means it has the most types of exchange within it, but it's not really higher. Of course, Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of a bhakta in that mood, was saying this is the greatest way to worship Krishna. But Rupa Goswami clearly says in the Nectar of Devotion that it's not that they're necessarily one higher than the other. What the difference is that one is higher in terms of analysis. Or wouldn't it be kind of weird to compare Mother Yashoda and Radharani? They won't let Mother Yashoda tries to go out and follow the cowherd boys sometimes. You know what happens? Or Balaram comes out and says, Mai, no, this is not, you can't come. Or Balaram stops her. You cannot come. This is not appropriate. This is Ras Bas. Now we're going to be Sakas. This is where we're going to fight each other and tie each other's shikas to cowtails and so forth. Mother Yashoda has to go back. So it's different. But from the analytical perspective, conjugal rasa is higher.
What does that mean from the analytical perspective that it's higher?
It means that in conjugal ras, all other five rasas are present. In conjugal ras, there is Sakya. In conjugal ras, there is Vatsalya. In conjugal ras, there is Sakya. In conjugal ras, there is neutral. And there is this element of conjugal also. Whereas in Vatsalya, you're missing the conjugal. And in Sakya, you're missing the Vatsalya. And in Dasya, you're missing those other three. And in Shanta, you're missing all four. So if your position is a cowherd boy in the spiritual world, does that mean you're lower than the gopis?
Good.
No. It doesn't mean that. Prabhupada makes that clear. It doesn't mean you're lower than the gopis. You're a different relationship.
I've heard parts of Krishna book where it makes it seem like it seems like Prabhupada says the word advanced, like you can advance to the level of the gopi.
Yeah, if that's your sarupa. But if you don't have that relationship, then
and like in Lord Chaitanya's talk with Ramananda Roy, it seemed like he was making it seem like there's an incremental
Lord Chaitanya did say the best way to worship Krishna is the mood of the gopis, meaning that he is an incarnation of Radharani. However, Rupa Goswami elaborates clearly in the Nectar of Devotion. Clearly stated. And Prabhupada made that point because that question was asked many times to Srila Prabhupada. It's not that, we can't compare Yashoda and Radharani. It's actually because they're different Ras. So, I mean, then comes in the problem, which Padmanabhan Prabhu will, if he has the opportunity to, he'll stomp it out, is that we start thinking, I want to be a gopi, or I want to be a this, I want to be a that. What about, but actually, Radharani, what her real rasa is dasya. She's the best servant of Krishna. She's always thinking of serving Krishna. That's what makes her so special. And she's serving Krishna in a particular mood. So, Raganuga Bhakti doesn't manifest by, just whimsical thinking. Raganuga Bhakti manifests by actually you have a certain attraction. By hearing certain pastimes, you become attracted. And therefore, you start hearing about those pastimes and start relating to Krishna in that mood. That's satisfying for the devotee. Why would Mother Yashoda want to kiss and dance for Krishna? Not nice.
It's satisfying for both the devotee and the Lord.
And the Lord, yeah.
Yeah, so both are going to be.
I mean,
satisfying.
would Prahlad, we say that Prahlad Maharaj should be, Prahlad Maharaj is, or actually just think about it. I mean, I heard Mahatma Prabhu just talk about this. He just did a little talk on it, I mean, we're all in ISKCON, we're exposed to Lord Chaitanya, we're trying to go to Goloka Vrindavan. That means that you're higher than Prahlad Maharaj, correct?
I don't know about that, but sometimes, like in like nectar devotion, it does make it seem like Krishna Loka is higher. Krishna
Loka is higher.
Then it makes it seem like there is hierarchy in the spiritual.
It's not, but it's not hierarchy in the sense of like someone's the president, someone's the vice president. It's hierarchy in terms of Ras. It's a different thing. It's in terms of Ras. It's analytical. Otherwise, it's no difference. Actually, Prahlad Maharaj was a worshiper of Krishna. He says Vasudev. He was worshiping Krishna, the cowherd boy Krishna, but because when Shringadev appeared to him, he became, he was attached to Shringadev. So that should be noted that Prahlad Maharaj was a devotee of Krishna. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes that clear in the Bhagavatam commentary. But the difference is in rasa. It's in rasa, like I don't want to go kiss my mom, now, maybe when I was like 1, I might have, but you don't do that. That's weird. And so, Krishna can kiss the gopis and have this ras, but Krishna does not want to have the same ras with the cowherd boys. So some devotees are in that mood and they appreciate that mood. And that's what they want to be.
Okay, but then we have so the Panchatattva came down. You have Gadadhar, who in the spiritual world is Radharani, right? And Radharani has a conjugal relationship with Krishna. But when Gadadhar is here with Lord Chaitanya, they have more like a fraternal type love. So it seems like it's possible to have. Well,
Gaura Lila is the and this is described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, which is by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And it's described that the Gaura Lila is the external manifestation, the sadhaka forms of these internal devotees. So, you have Rupa. I mean, what does Rupa Goswami look like? He looks like the greatest sadhaka. He's not dressing like a gopi. Right. He's not saying, I'm kissing Krishna. He's saying, where is Krishna? They're always wandering around looking for Krishna. Where is Krishna? Where is Radha? Where is Krishna? Where is Radha? That's the mood of the Goswamis. They're chanting Hare Krishna on their beads all day long with tears of ecstasy. They're performing sadhana bhakti in the Raganuga spirit. Internally, he's Rupa Manjari. Internally, Sanatana Goswami is Lavanga Manjari. Internally, Sarup Damodar is Lalita Saki. Internally, Ramananda Roy is both Arjuna and Vishaka Saki. So,
but then Arjuna seems clearly that's a fraternal Ras with Krishna, but then he's also a gopi. So then it's the fact that you could be a gopi, have the conjugal thing and a fraternal. At
a certain point, there comes to be a level of achincha. But I'll say that I'm repeating exactly what Prabhupada says.
Yeah,
I'm repeating exactly what Prabhupada says in the Nectar Devotion. He says that there's ultimately no difference, and he says that here too in this purport. But there's a difference on the level of ras. It's in the level of ras that there's a difference. So in terms of rasa, there is more rasa in the conjugal ras. There's no question. There's more rasa. But a particular devotee may feel favored toward another, ras. In fact, there's the whole thing that the Gaudiya Math devotees say Prabhupada was a Manjari, or is a Manjari, and Prabhupada himself said, I'm a cowherd boy. Now, we're not to speculate, but we will say, like Ashram Maharaj told me, he said, I'm not speculating I wrote a little book on it. Prabhupada himself, I'm just repeating the things Prabhupada actually said. Prabhupada actually said these things. So Prabhupada's, apparently the highest devotee, yet he's saying, I love this Sakya Ras. So,
I mean, isn't our aim to please Krishna?
exactly, too.
We shouldn't be like.
Exactly. That's the main point.
Just what's going to most please the Lord.
And that's the main point. And so, Lord Chaitanya, this, it's like the third verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita. He's come to give what no one's give, this, conjugal ras. So it's not that we should think, oh, I'm higher than Prahlad Maharaj because I'm getting conjugal ras. You're getting Lord Chaitanya's mercy. That's all it is. You're having an opportunity to develop that, perhaps. Now, personally, I feel attracted to the Sakya Ras. I feel, I love the Cowherd Boys, and
But I find it interesting that it's like Lord Chaitanya is offering the conjugal ras. That almost makes it seem like you have the ability to choose your ras for Krishna. It's not
now,
a predefined thing.
I encourage you to ask Padmanabhan. Encourage you to ask him, because he will give you an earful. I'm serious. He gets very crazy with these questions. Like, it's like he actually, there's a misconception, and I'll tell you what he said. There's a misconception to think that, in one sense we have our own form in the spiritual world, but when you start thinking about what I want, it really becomes contorted. Even in the very beginning stage, it becomes contorted. You can look, I think Indrajumna Swami, I don't know if you read that book, his book. He had a devotee write him a letter. She said, oh, I want to, experience conjugal ras. And he said, you are a foolish little girl. That's what he said. You are a foolish little girl, full of nonsense. He said, you don't even know. How could you possibly? He chastised her so bad. So in that sense, the real thing we should develop, the point that, we make, is that you should be a devotee of Krishna. We should serve Krishna in whatever way he wants us to serve him, actually.
Yeah. But then if it's like, if there is like actually like some rasas that are more pleasing to Krishna, and we have the freedom to choose our ras, then it's like, it seems logical that if we want to please Krishna the most,
there's no rasas that are more pleasing or less pleasing. Krishna is pleased by all of the devotees' service. He's pleased by all the devotees' service. They're all his internal potency. Krishna doesn't like when the cowherd boys mix with the with the mother father ras. He doesn't like that. He's displeased. Lord Chaitanya wouldn't even let people in if they were messing with that. It's called rasabas. Swarup Damodar would send them away. In fact, Swarup Damodar would chastise them severely if they tried to tell a pastime that had rasabas. And so, actually, Krishna is pleased when the rasas are in their own place. In fact, Lord Chaitanya tells Jagadananda Pandit. Jagadananda Pandit is in the conjugal ras, but he's not in the conjugal ras of Vrindavan. He's in the conjugal ras of Dwarka, because he's Satyabhama, and he wants to go to Vrindavan. And Lord Chaitanya says, I don't think you're ready for Vrindavan. You can go to Vrindavan, but you have to only stay with Rupa and Sanatan. Don't talk to anybody else, because you won't understand it, because you're in this ras. Lord Chaitanya told him like that. And also, furthermore, Nitai, he has all cowherd boy associates, the Gopalas, is it Minakena Ramdas? He's always dressed like, they would dress like cowherd boys, and they would like jump through trees and pull out full trees and do all kinds of cool stuff. So, is it that these devotees are of a lower grade? No, all these are magnanimous souls. In fact, CC clearly says that to compare such preachers of Krishna consciousness constitutes an aparad. So, Lord Chaitanya, when he came across, even Murari Gupta was chanting, Ram, 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 Ram. The Lord said, you should chant Krishna. Chant Krishna. Why are you chanting Ram? Krishna is higher than Ram, don't you know? So Murari Gupta started trying to chant Krishna, but he started to cry. I told Lord Chaitanya with tears in his eyes, I love my Ram. I love my Ram. And Lord Chaitanya became blissful. He said, that's because you are Hanuman. That's because you are Hanuman. And Lord Chaitanya was pleased by that. In fact, he was so pleased that later on, when he met Anupama, the brother of Rupa and Sanatana, the brother of Rupa and Sanatana, when he met him, he said, Anupama was a devotee of Ram, and Rupa and Sanatana were devotees of Krishna. And they said, Anupama died, but they tell Lord Chaitanya that, our brother, he was, he couldn't chant Krishna, he could only chant Ram. And Lord Chaitanya smiled and said, yes, I knew one devotee, Murari. He's also in that mood. So in that,
We don't choose our rasa. We might discern our rasa, but we don't choose it.
it's all grace. I mean, that's a debate. Like Padmanayan would tell you, that, I mean, that comes down into, it really gets into the where's the origin of the jiva debate. That's where I'm drawing the line. I'm not ready for that here, and I'm not going to go into that. But from what I understand, and I'll tell you what I understand is, yes, we do have an eternal position in the spiritual world. That's what we are, constituted as. We have an eternal position in Goloka Vrindavan. We have our own, position there that we relate with Krishna in, and that's unique. And so if you're a unique person, then in the spiritual world, then, I mean, Nitai is coming from the point of view that would also kind of indicate that the jiva was never there in the spiritual world, which is.
And I'm not advocating for this point of view. I'm just kind of like saying things that I've
Yeah.
heard.
I mean, this is how we got into like a horrendous debate with Padmanayan, and like it was like a slaughter. But Balaram Shakti kind of defeated him. Balaram Shakti really came in like hard on him, but Padmanayan would not budge. Anyways, he's a very stubborn person. But I don't agree with that. Like Prabhupada said, we're from the spiritual world. We were with Krishna. And that's what ISKCON coherently believes. I think I can logically prove how it's both. But most people are not able to understand that. But I know you probably will. If there's no time in the spiritual world, that means having been there, you've always been there. Therefore, it's kind of both. So, anyways, you can understand it like that when you get on the high level contemplative level. But most people don't want that. In any case, it's all, it's one of those things that's minimal. But we should understand that we shouldn't compare like, Prabhupada says so many times that's offensive to compare that, this devotee is in conjugal ras and this devotee is in sakya ras, and therefore, this one is better.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be like saying Sachi Mata is less of a devotee than Gadadhar Pandit. I think it's kind of a craziness. Sachi Mata is so elevated. And so, and that can get us into, that same kind of, we were hearing in my purport, it was the purport I did for my Isanga class. There's a purport, Bhagavatam 7:5-12. You can read it, and Prabhupada very clearly says that a Vaishnava is one who appreciates other Vaishnavas. And so when you could say, hey, Prabhu, I'm in the ras of mopping the floor, and you're in the ras of, dressing the deity. Actually, dressing the deity is a higher level than, than mop. Or, then you get into that, the book distributors are all convinced that they're the highest devotees. And in a sense, they are. But in another sense, if you don't have a temple to take people to, you don't have a congregation, you don't have someone to take the person who gets the book and sit and answer their questions for 7 hours, then, you have a problem. So in that way, it's a team, and everybody's trying to serve Krishna. And the spiritual world, this point is made very clearly by Bhaktisiddhanta, actually. We're not trying to imitate Radha and Krishna. We're trying to worship Radha and Krishna. And so we worship the conjugal ras in our stage. We don't worship Krishna in conjugal ras. We worship the conjugal ras itself. And Krishna will have a natural affection, will awaken. It'll awaken naturally. That's the point. This is a natural thing. If you have a natural awakening to love someone, if you fall in love with someone, that's natural. You can't help it. Even if they don't like you back or whatever, you love them. That's what can you do? You don't really have, it's one of those things out of control. So if you fall in love with Krishna in the mood of a cowherd boy, you're not going to want to, kiss him. You're going to want to wrestle with him.
Yeah. All right. I don't want to drag on this too long, but I was reading, I think it was Gargi Sangita, and it was talking about like the rasa dance. And it said like Krishna turned like some plants or trees into gopis. And they started doing the rasa dance. So it seems to indicate like you could be in that Shanta ras as a tree in Vrindavan and then change into a gopi by Krishna as well. So it seems like our swarup and our rasa isn't actually fixed.
Okay, I don't know.
Because like how do you even explain it? You know what I mean?
It's beyond. You have to. I think I would just tell you go there and find out.
Maybe the rasa was always.
There's an element that the devotee who has the highest level of Madhurya Rasa and Chaitanya Lila. There's 3 devotees who have Mahabhav. What are their names? 3 people who have Mahabhav. 3 personalities in the universe who have had Mahabhav. Madhavendra Puri, Lord Chaitanya, and Srimati Radharani. So what is Madhavendra Puri in the spiritual world? He's a Kalpavriksha tree. So how is he having Madhurya Ras? Because he's seeing the pastimes of Radha Krishna. So it's not that, it's one of those, it's a really, I mean, I tell you, this is another Padmanabhan moment. You know, he like got really heavy because he's like, you know, he has so many levels of depth because he reads all these Bengali and Sanskrit sastras that we don't even have access to. And he reads all the commentaries in Sanskrit. I've seen you sit there, he'll read Bhakti Vaibhav, he'll sit and read Vishwanath's commentary in Sanskrit and then translate it right there. And so, you know, you get into this point where in the spiritual, you know, do you think you want to go kiss Krishna? That's not the highest pleasure in the spiritual world. The highest pleasure is to get someone else to kiss Krishna. And to get someone else to kiss Krishna. And actually the ultimate pleasure is to get Radharani to kiss Krishna. And Radharani's thinking, oh, I want you to hang out with Krishna.
Yeah, but then isn't that implying a hierarchy again?
No, everybody's serving Radha.
Yeah.
Radha is supreme. What do you want to be better than Radha? Yeah, Radha is the supreme.
Then we're saying the supporter of Radha, the people that get Radha killed with Krishna is better than Radha.
Actually, in the spiritual world, Prabhupada says the servant of 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 the servant is the highest. He experiences, I mean, it's clearly said that the devotees experience 10 million times more ecstasy than the devotees with Krishna.
Right.
Why do you think actually the more people, you think that you see the Astasakis, they think, oh, this is the highest position? No. The Manjaris are the highest position, confirmed. The Manjaris are higher because the Manjaris are arranging the pastimes. So actually, the Kalpavriksha tree, he's sitting there providing shade and all the different paraphernalias for Radha and Krishna's love. And so in the spiritual world, ultimately, I mean, I told this to Padmanabhan about something I was like being whimsical. I was like, oh yeah, he's serving Krishna in the spiritual. He's like, he's all, oh. No, no. That is not how it works, Prabhu. He says, if you make a garland for Krishna, first you will offer it to Manjari, then they will offer it to Saki, then they will offer it to Radharani, then she will offer it to Krishna. That's what he told me. So I said, okay, all right.
Shouldn't have like secondhand stress right now. Just
shouldn't have went there because like we're like in this light conversation of like, oh yeah, he just no. As Balaram, he was there. I was like, oh God, I'm in trouble. Prabhu, that is not how the spiritual world works. Then he gets all, he gets animated. If you make garland for Krishna, first you offer that garland to Manjari. Manjari offered to Saki. Saki offered to Radharani. After Krishna. That's how it works. Okay.
I heard already commented.
So anyways, that's the way it works. You know, that's the way that Ras works, is that I mean, it's true. I mean, like I mean, this is a fact. When I'm giving a class, I mean, I love preaching to the devotees and having, it's fun. But when there's a new person there, I'm like, I don't even care about the devotees. I'm preaching to that new person. That's all it is. I don't care if it's a Bhagavatam class. I don't care. I'll experience the joy that new person's experiencing. I really will. When I see, like, we had this boy Greg came, and I gave him a book 4 years ago. You know, he's read it, came to the temple. He talked to me in the Krishna for like 5 hours one day. Didn't see him for a while. Came back. You know, I texted him here and there, and he came. We talked for another while. We had dinner together. We kept talking. And he's been asking a lot of questions. And then, you know, I got to bring him to Gurudev. Now, I mean, personally, I love being with Gurudev. It's cool. You know, I've been with Gurudev a lot. But it's really like, I don't get very much nectar there. I get more nectar from bringing a new person to Gurudev. So much more, unlimitedly more nectar. And I think Gurudev gets more nectar too, and our relationship's closer, that I'm spending my time away from the table. I'm spending my time going and meeting new people. Now, since there's no new people these days, it's different. But, you know, back in the day, we'd have like whole tables of new people, and I would go and sit with each table and talk with them. And I would never sit with Gurudev's table. I would always sit with new people. And maybe afterward, I'd go talk with Gurudev, and I'd bring them over to meet Gurudev. I'd feel so much ecstasy. And then when Greg was like, you know, at the end of the night, he was like so blissed out. He was like, that man, he's like, this is so amazing. You know, this is real. And I was like, you know, my heart was pounding. It's like pounding. I couldn't even sleep. I was so fired up, you know, because, you know, Krishna is reciprocating that you're helping someone come back to Krishna.
This was the white guy that was talking to Gurudev on festival.
Two guys, actually, there's Greg and Austin.
Yeah, but Greg is
Greg's he looks Indian, yeah. He's half Gujarati.
Yeah, very nice.
So in that way, you know, we really want to be servant of the servant. Like we shouldn't think, you know,
I want to serve in this way. That becomes actually, it's not real pure promotional service. So, I mean, Lord Chaitanya really appreciated the devotees in their own ras. You know, how many times Lord Chaitanya, he said, you know, like, Mai, like, you know, Sachi, you're my everything. You know, you're my everything. And he told that to all the devotees, you know, Gadadhar and you know, Sarup Damodar. And, you know, when he was in Puri, he was specifically manifesting the mood of Radharani. And so naturally he had a certain, you know, mood with Lalita and Vishaka. He was always with them. But, you know, actually all the devotees have a genuine ras. It's important, you know, it's their ras. They would not want to be otherwise. So, and it's not that, it's actually, it's what they offer. You know, Krishna wouldn't want to please Krishna in all different ways. You know, Krishna also wants to taste. Krishna comes here to fight. He brings devotees down to like, I want to brawl with you. Okay, it's like, yeah, actually, Krishna, I'm a gopi. I don't brawl. Sorry, I'm just saying no to you. Well, I mean, all right, woo! Now you're in the material world. You know, Krishna told Prabhupada, you know, I want you to go down to earth. Prabhupada, no, oh my God, not to go to earth and preach. But actually, I read a purport. There's a purport where the seventh canto where it said that there is no person more confidential to Krishna than he who is bringing others to Krishna. Not even in the spiritual world. There's no person more confidential than the preachers. And so people wonder, you know, I don't care what I do. I don't care what my ashram is. I don't care what happens. That is ultimately everything I like to do. Everything I live for and breathe for. To help people come to Krishna. Just whatever I can do to do that. That's my ecstasy. That's my happiness. That's my greatest love. All the other stuff is just temporary, secondary, meaningless to me. I want to help people come to Krishna. And I want to have good relationships with the devotees. I want to have fulfilling relations. That's my two things in life. Personally, when I first came to devotee, I was like, I'm going to be brahmachari my whole life, you know. And that's all just faded away. Quite honestly, I don't have those things, or I don't have any of those desires anymore. I just want Krishna. I just want to please Krishna by preaching. And I want to have beautiful relationships with devotees. I want to have like heart to hearts, you know. And if this position is not good for that anymore, I'll go to a different position. I'm not attached. I'm attached to hearts with devotees. And I'm attached to pleasing the devotees. And I'm attached to, and it's just so much of a hassle to try to maintain all this stuff. It's all false. You know, I just want to have a loving exchange. If you don't want to have a loving exchange, if you want to just be superficial relationship, you know, laugh, whatever. In fact, I made a concerted effort recently to just avoid all social groups which make me feel exhausted, which are, you know, where it's like, you know, you're finding, oh, like, you know, devotees, maybe this looks like they're having fun, but there's no heart substance. I don't want to be there. I only want like heart to heart substance. And I was thinking about like all my real devotee friends, you know, like the ones who make me feel really loved, like Parameshvara, Gurudev. Like Gurudev's, you know, he's in ecstasy, but he's not like, you know, you don't see him like, oh, hugging people and like, you know, it's all fake. You get like that, you know, I'm not saying hugging people's fake, but I'm saying, you know, we can get in a mood where it's like, look at me, I have so many friends, look at me, and it's natural. It's a natural human condition, but you know, Gurudev can make you feel so loved with a Hare Krishna. I mean, like literally, you know, if I'm in Maya, if I'm like in real darkness, like Gurudev, and he's like Hare Krishna Kirtaneshwar, it's like, oh, I'm good. Like, bye, Gurudev, you know, I feel better completely. You know, or I call Narahari, and he just like, you know, all he does is just look at me. I feel like, wow, I don't even know what I was suffering about, you know. And you know, like, you know, Parameshwar, everybody loves him. And, you know, he's not like he's hugging a bunch of people going around and, you know, joking and making jokes with people. Actually, mostly he's just a very humble, loving devotee for Krishna Prabhu. He's very humble. And I made a concerted effort to be more like that because I realized that that's a real relationship. And it goes same with man-woman relationship. You know, you can say, oh, there's so much attraction and ras and whatever. But actually, you know, real husband, real wife, it's profound admiration, intense gratitude, and appreciation. Those things, you know, admiration, affection, and gratitude. You know, like, I'm grateful for you and I admire your service and I appreciate what you do. That's love. And I'm into that with everything in whatever situation. So personally, that goes into, I mean, we kind of went off the topic of Krishna Ras, but I think it applies deeply in the way that we kind of interact with each other. So, we want to be real. We want to serve Krishna. We want to serve the Vaishnavas genuinely rather than serve our own false ego. And I was just noticing how much I serve my own false ego over the years, deeply. And even in the sense that I'm serving Krishna, actually, like, I'm not saying I regret it. I'm not saying anything, but, like, the type of person I am is like, I'm attracted to positions and cool colors and cool looks and like, oh, look at the guys in orange, It's like, was it actually a genuine, like, devotion thing, or was it, how much my ego was invested in it? And so, I've had to look back and really analyze and shift and try to be really more genuine service to Krishna mode. And I think that every devotee, we're supposed to be grave. Gravity doesn't mean we don't have love. It actually means we have deeper love. Anyhow, I think we did one sloka, like a Priya Bhagavad.
Is the soul of Bhishma Dev, does he also reappear in other leelas also?
I can't say. I think he's one of the Vasus. I know that before Bhishma. But sometimes these souls, they come like lifetimes before to prepare for Krishna. Just like Devaki, like Krishna, they come before, or even Yashoda and Nanda are eternal associates with Krishna, but they appear like their lifetimes leading to them. And it goes so deep. Literally, it's like crazy deep, because there's the demigod portions of the Dwarkas, and then there's the eternal portions of them, and they like split off. Demigod portions go back to the demigod worlds, and so, we really, I mean, at a certain point, it's just like, Narahari Prabhu always tells me that all you got to know is that God's a blue cowherd boy, and I love him, It's like, all you really got to know is you just got to know Krishna. I mean, I don't think, I really hope that in the spiritual world, I'm not talking about this stuff, too much. I hope they're just,
Probably not.
they're just going to be talking about Krishna. Like, oh, Krishna pooped on the floor today. Did you see that? Or, did you see Krishna lift that hill? Wow, it was so amazing. Wow. Can you imagine, you're trying to talk about, the Rasa dance and someone, in the spiritual world, and someone comes in and they're like, they're starting to, they're wondering about some, mundane material thing, because ultimately all this stuff is inconceivable. It's a chincha. With this philosophy is to make us attracted to Krishna. Nitai used to ask questions every single day. Like, he'd be like, oh, any questions, Nitai? Any more questions, Nitai? Omar? Any more questions, Omar? Any more questions, Omar? It was like, he'd ask so many questions. And then in time, just the questions started dying down. You see Nitai is chanting, he's dancing, all these things. And so you see that actually, we still have questions if we need them. But the philosophy, once you're convinced of the philosophy, now the questions are of a different nature. Most of the time, they're like, how can I improve my service? Versus, I need to understand all the God stuff before I can accept that God's just a blue cowherd boy. And that's the inconceivable thing. It's like, what the heck? It's like, it's one of those moments where it's like, I'm really starting to freak out here because it's looking like God may be, in fact, a blue cowherd boy. It's really, really hard to believe. I've looked for this guy my whole life, and I'm finding out he's a blue cowherd boy. And it's pretty hard not to like. There's a lot of evidence starting to suggest that God's a blue cowherd boy, guys. Cow poops between his toes. He's playing the flute. He's stealing butter, and it's really hard to understand that Jesus' Father, I prayed to my whole life, our Father who art in heaven, is a blue cowherd boy. And so then all of a sudden, but it's weird because devotees literally can convince you of that.
Yeah.
And they can give that to you. Bhakti mama vijananti. Yavan yas yas michatmata. Tatamam tatto gedas. Vishate tarmantaram. Only by devotional service can I be understood as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead standing before you. And when one is enlightened by such knowledge, one can enter into the kingdom of God. One is purified by such devotional service. How is it possible? So, I mean, like, really, it's like, when you go on the street, and you try to explain to someone why, like the poor Greg, I felt bad for him, here's, there's the stone here, and he's trying to understand how this is God, But he's because he's a devotee, he starts to understand. Like, well, yeah, I have a stone too. We all have stones, actually. But I mean, like, that looks like a pet rock.
Yeah.
You know,
They're putting makeup on their pet rocks. What's going on?
I never see it. It's like, okay, you took the pet rock thing so far that your pet rock, you have a God rock, It's a God,
A whole mountain.
a God rock, I remember,
Centered around that little mountain.
we have like, I sent you I sent you the video when I was in Mayapur of the Govardhan Puja, and you're seeing like, thousands of people and this guy with this big painted rock on his head, and like people are like, ah, bowing down before it, it's so, can you imagine?
Good man, God rock.
Can you imagine? Yeah, right. Can you imagine what that looks like to a Christian? Like if we showed like, 18-year-old Mormon Tamal, like look at these pagans, Prabhu, like there's a rock with a big smiley face on a guy's head, and there's literally thousands of people bowing down, they're fanning it and screaming,
You try to pull that off in the Middle East, you're gonna get beheaded.
Immediately beheaded. But somehow or another, after a certain phase, it's just like, yeah. I talk to my Guru Raj all day, every day, he's sitting there looking at me. I love him, So in that way, it's amazing. It's actually amazing that devotees can do like that. I mean, that's a miracle. That's a miracle that we can actually are empowered to convince people and to let them, and it shows you that this is real. Krishna is real. I mean, we've seen atheists, like Vishaka Mataji was a full-on atheist. Prabhupada, just by being around Prabhupada, look at the type of devotee she is now. I mean, she's as high-class devotee sadhaka as it could possibly get. Jug eyes and mud eyes and horrendous people. Lord Chaitanya's mercy is that real that you can understand. And, it can get a little bit hairy, when we start trying to understand, what's the spiritual world actually going to be like? Like, is it going to be like this? What's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? You're seeing through your hands at the same time. It's kind of weird. I mean, what we can understand, and we want to just back things out, like how do we explain this to people? One thing I say is, there's different conceptions of God. This is what Bhakti Maharaj kind of explains, is like, one conception is that God, and there's God and his energies. But what are the interactions between God and his energies, and how, there's different levels, but the spiritual world, the conjugal Ras, and basically Goloka Vrindavan, Braj, represents total freedom. That's why it's Parakiya Ras is higher than even, the married Ras is the Parakiya Ras, is that now there's like, Krishna and Radha, they're not married, they're hanging out in the forest at night. It's totally taboo, and everybody's worshiping that. All the devotees are actually secretly in on it, even Jatala, is that her name? Jatala. She's like, what? Jatila, even Jatila, she's like, oh, that Krishna's coming, but she's actually, it's her service. She's always thinking of Krishna. It's her service to make the funniness happen, I know, Prabhu. Can you imagine being Abhimanyu? Like, it's like one of those things where it's like, like that's what's gonna happen to you, Nitya. You're gonna be like, actually, wait a minute, what? I'm going back to the material world.
Just getting cheated. Oh my God.
Like, and he's getting great pleasure in getting cheated on. That's the spiritual world. He's in ecstasy because his wife is cheating on him. This is amazing, no? Everybody got like Radharani has a husband. Like, what is this philosophy? What is this philosophy? It's so funny. What is this? And it's like that the whole pastime. Krishna dresses up as Abhimanyu. It says Krishna's coming dressed up as Abhimanyu. Jatila's throwing rocks at him and throwing cow dung and cow urine on him. It's like, what's going on here? So this is amazing. This is the amazing nature of Krishna consciousness. That how much fun we're having just talking to Krishna. We're experiencing that right now. This is so beautiful. So yeah, in that way, devotees have an ability to bring someone in. That's why we should seek the highest associate with them all the time. And it's in like I've noticed in my life, like there's association and then there's association. Even really good devotees, if we're associating with them in the wrong way, what benefit do we get? So our families, our husbands, wives, children, everything we can make that association uplifting, or we can make it degrading, where it's like it's a mundane thing. So I feel as though, I try to stay in social situations because I get overwhelmed. Like I get super drained by like big groups and crowds and stuff. And so I've just realized that I want to be in associations that are really positive, really uplifting, and really intimate. And even big association is okay, but it's got to be that move. This will end, huh?
Thank you.
I like your comment, Natai. Avimana is pretty bewildering. Can you end that? Oh, wow.
I don't know, are there any good pastimes in there? Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, or to understand, Nityananda Prabhu's pastimes, it's like this.